The winter was cold, snowy, and dark. The silent, depressing winter nights lasted for weeks. Blizzards would often cover the town with snow up to the rooftops, leaving the people imprisoned in their own houses. Residents would dig tunnels in the snow between their houses, and from an aerial view, the town looked like a labyrinth made of snow. Despite its beauty, this place was severe. When the skies were finally clear, filled with clusters of bright stars, nature unfolded the most spectacular and fascinating, visually stunning light show. The aurora was there. It was dynamic, constantly shifting in colors and shapes. Each appearance was unique. 3 luminous green bands would dart across the night sky, or red and bluish stripes of light would often reach out to and pace the zenith, or the stripes would otherwise flicker like curtains or roll like smoke with a hint of pink along the edge, and occasionally, with a deep violet center that changed a few minutes later and looked more pale or white with the reddish fringes on its rim. Leah and Daniel moved into a small house with 2 small rooms. The front room had the furnace and a bed, and it was the warmest place in the little house. Leah was assigned to work as an accountant at the local clinic, and Daniel as a teacher at the local school. They both worked all day, leaving 3-year-old Bella home alone. In the morning, Leah put some firewood in the furnace to keep the house warm the entire day and instructed her little daughter to be a good girl. Bella spent her day sitting on the bed that was next to the furnace, playing with her big plastic doll that Leah bought her before they moved here from Birobidzhan. It was the only toy Bella had, and she loved it very much. The doll was always very cold. Bella felt sorry for it and constantly covered it with her blanket, but it didn't help, the doll was still very cold. "You have a very cold temperature. I have to take you to a doctor. You are sick." Bella played with the doll. "Doctor? My baby girl has a fever. She's very cold." "Yes. I see." She mimicked a doctor, using a lower tone of voice. "You have to make her warm." "Okay," she squeaked. "Baby girl, I'm going to make you healthy," she said, and put the doll on the top of the scorching hot furnace. The next moment, the doll caught on fire. Bella screamed and pushed it from the furnace, hoping to rescue it. The doll fell on the bed and fire spread all over it. In a second, the doll's stomach was completely burned out. Smoke was also coming from the blanket and the mattress. Bella pushed the doll back to the furnace. It bounced against the wall and flew back on the bed, spreading fire even more. The room started to fill with smoke. With great difficulty, Bella pulled the heavy smoking mattress, along with the blanket and charred remains of the doll, down from the bed to the floor, and dragged it to the front door. The smoke became heavier, and Bella's eyes itched and watered. Finding it hard to breathe, she choked. Bella finally reached the front door and opened it with fear. She was very afraid of bears, but she was terrified of the fire and smoke even more. The girl pulled the heavy mattress out of the house. It was so good to get outside and take a breath of the fresh air, freezing cold as it was. The tip of her nose and fingers immediately froze, and she desperately wanted to get back inside. She was desperate, standing at the front door of her house as smoke escaped from the building. A heavy black cloud moved over the tranquil northern stillness. When her neighbors saw the smoke, they ran to rescue the girl and called Daniel to come home and take care of his belongings and the house. There was no fire department in the town, so the people lived at their own risk. Leah ran home when she found out about the fire. She grabbed Bella tightly and covered her with kisses, even though Bella expected to be punished for her bad behavior, and cried. "Don't cry, Bella," Leah comforted her. "Everything is going to be all right." "No." Bella cried more. "My doll is gone and I don't have it anymore." "Oh, my darling. I'll buy you another doll." "Okay." She wiped tears from her daughter's face. "Give Mama a kiss, would you?" Bella did. Inya was an isolated little town in the most northern region of the west coast of the Pacific Ocean. There were no roads connecting the town with the rest of civilization. A fish factory had been constructed along the shoreline, and it was the only place where people could work, therefore, every family had at least one person who worked in the factory. Fishing was the main source of income. Men caught fish, while women salted and canned it. Fish was the main food in town. Salt was free, because anybody could take it from the factory. There were no stores in the town. The other food, such as potatoes, grain, flour, vodka, sugar, and oil, was delivered to the town a few times a year by trucks or helicopters in exchange for fish. The food was distributed to the townspeople as per food stamps that they received from the government based on the number of people in a family. Leah and Daniel had no other options but to leave Bella home while they were at work. They thought that she learned her lesson and would behave in the future, however, they were none the wiser. As usual, Bella was sitting on her bed, talking to her new doll. "You are already a big girl, not a baby. You are not going to come close to the furnace. It is very dangerous, it will burn you, and you will die. So, you have to sit here and be a good girl, and I have to help my mommy to cook some dinner." She covered the doll with her blanket, jumped off the bed, and opened a kitchen cabinet. There were a few jars inside, with sugar, salt, and a few different types of grain. She pulled out the largest pot she could find, and one by one, she poured out the contents of every jar into the pot. "I'm such a great helper," she said to herself, and added a few glasses of water to the pot. "What would my mom do without me?" She was satisfied, taking a large spoon and mixing the contents of the pot. "What a delicious soup you prepared for me, Bella." She mimicked her mother's voice. "I've never eaten anything like that. It's so good." The front door opened, Leah entered the house, and glanced at her happy, smiling daughter. "Oh, my God! What have you done, baby?" she screamed in desperation, realizing that they had no food to eat for the next month. "I made you a soup, Mommy," Bella replied proudly. "Tomorrow, I'll talk to our neighbor and ask if he could take me on a dog sledding ride to Birobidzhan. I have to buy some food for us and take Bella to live with my parents for some time until we figure out what to do next," Daniel whispered at night when the girl was soundly asleep. "She is too little to stay home alone." She was lucky that there were no bears around, they could smell the smoke miles away. God only knew what she might come up with the next time. Packs of dogs were the only transportation available. There were just a few of them in the town, and their owners were always ready to help for a bottle of vodka. "We can go tomorrow. I just fed the dogs, so they are no good for a long-distance trip. They have to be hungry before the journey." "Really?" Daniel was surprised. "Won't they get tired without food?" "Oh no. A dog with a full stomach can't run fast, a hungry dog runs very fast, urged by hunger and my loud commands. Also, a hungry dog tries to bite off the tail of the dog running in front of it. That made the entire pack of dogs runs faster, they just kept running away from each other." He laughed. "This is why it's very dangerous to stand in their way." Not that long ago, a boy walked on a road and was torn apart by an oncoming dog sled. Yes, we already know this. But, at the time, my wife didn't know. She walked down the road to head home after the clinic, and thankfully, a man from the factory saved her by pushing her hard into a snow dune and dragging her away from the road as a pack of dogs ran past, barking angrily. So, now we know that we must watch our backs always. The next day, Daniel wrapped Bella into a warm blanket and they headed to Birobidzhan. Sarah and Samuel were happy to see their son and granddaughter, and gladly agreed to have Bella for a few months. In the morning, Sarah woke Bella up much earlier. "Bella, you are already a big girl and have to go to kindergarten. There are a lot of children there and you are going to have a lot of fun. Get ready, quick. You'll walk there with 2 other kids." From that day forward, every morning, Bella walked to kindergarten with a girl, who was 2 years older, and a boy, who was 1 year older than her. The kindergarten was on the other side of the Bira River at a visible distance, but the children had to walk a long way because the small bridge over the river was half a mile north. It wasn't exactly a bridge, but more like a wooden raft that was placed at the narrow part of the river for people to cross. Bella liked to go to kindergarten, but she hated making the journey there because of the green monster that lived at the riverbank and the girl that escorted her, who constantly reminded Bella about the monster. "I'm big girl," Bella thought. "I shouldn't fear any monsters." But she was still afraid. The spring arrived suddenly, bringing beautiful weather. The shining sun warmed up everything and everyone. Bella turned her face toward the sun, enjoying the warm tender touch of sunrays. It felt so good. "Why are you smiling?" the girl asked. "No reason. It's stupid to smile without a reason." "You'd better watch out for the green monster." "There is no monster there," Bella argued bravely. "Yes, there is. Look. Don't you see its tail over the hill near the river?" she sneered. Bella saw the monster's dark green tail sticking out of the hill and tried to be brave. "I'm not afraid." "Oh yes you are." "No. I'm not," she yelled. "If you're not afraid, then go there and let the monster eat you alive." She pushed Bella toward the river monster, laughing. Her feet stumbled beneath her as her body lunged forward. She lost her footing, landing hard on the palm of her hands. Tauntingly, the girl and the boy marched past Bella, their laughter trailing behind them as she brushed the dirt from her hands. Regardless, Bella was determined and kept her pace until they finally reached the bridge. At this time of the year, the snow melted and the river overflowed. The bridge floated on the water, yet it somehow managed to stay in the same place. When children stepped on the bridge, it balanced for a second, and then suddenly started floating downstream along the river. "Oh, my God!" the girl yelled. She wanted to jump off the bridge to the riverbank, but it was too late. "She's more afraid of the green monster than I am," Bella thought. The boy started crying, and a big, green snot bubble came out of his nose. Bella was looking at the riverbank, trying to see the green monster, but it wasn't there. She glimpsed over and saw the tail of the monster, but after taking a second look, it turned out to be a long branch of a tall tree. The tree was standing at the bottom of the hill near the water, and from the other side of the hill, only branches could be seen. "She's such a liar," Bella thought with satisfaction. "There is no green monster." "I knew it." The girl continued to howl. Bella looked around and suddenly realized the reason for the girl's yelp. The raft quickly floated downstream, increasing in speed every second. It would take them only 20 miles to enter the huge Amur River. And if they made it that far, nobody would be able to find them. Bella was staring at the bank, trying to find somebody who could help, but to her dismay, there was nobody in sight. After a couple of minutes, they reached the full speed of the water stream. It was a smooth ride, and it would have otherwise been enjoyable if the children weren't scared half to death. To their luck, Bella saw a couple of fishermen at the bank of the river. "Fishermen!" She pointed to their direction, and the children started yelling louder to get their attention. The fishermen caught the raft with a long hook, which they used to pull their fishnets from the water, and pulled the raft to the bank. A big man's hands reached and lifted Bella up as her right boot got caught by a corner of the raft and fell in the water. He picked it up, poured out the water, and handed it to her. "Here, young sailor." Bella couldn't put her boot back on because it was wet, so she walked home barefoot. Halfway home, she met her grandma. Somebody had already told Sarah about Bella's little adventure, and she was running toward Bella. The girl didn't even have a chance to say anything. Sarah picked her up and hugged her tight for a long time, crying. "Granny, you don't have to cry," Bella said, and wiped Sarah's tears from her face. "There's no green monster to be afraid of. It's just a tree. I saw it myself." Sarah laughed, hugging her little girl even harder as tears fell down her cheeks. Birobidzhan was located between a cluster of large hills. Several small rivers ran between them, and a beautiful forest spread out over the crest of the hills. As summer approached, the children of the town gathered together to go to the forest to collect berries and mushrooms. "Grandma! Grandma!" Bella rushed inside the house. "Can I go with the children to the forest for berries?" "Please," she begged. "Yes you can, only be careful. Don't get lost there." "Okay, Granny. I will," she replied. running outside. There were a lot of kids of different ages there. The big children were as tall as adults, but there were also many small kids of Bella's age. Bella didn't have friends, but she hoped to make some on the trip. She was very happy. They walked a long way over the hill to the river. The children were talking and laughing. There were a lot of siblings there. They all knew each other and looked like a big family, which Bella longed to be a part of. Upon reaching the river, the bigger children carried their smaller siblings on their shoulders across the river, which was deep in the middle where the water reached their necks. How can I cross? It's too deep. Bella thought. Would you please carry me to the other side? It's too deep for me, she asked a tall teenager. I can't do it 2 times. The water is too cold. Swim over, he replied. But I don't know how to swim, she said shyly. Go that way, down the river, a small child pointed while sitting on his older brother's shoulders. It's not that deep in there. You can cross. Only be careful. There are holes in some places on the bottom of the river. Bella rushed in the direction the kid told her, and got into the water. It was very cold, and the current was strong. She made a few steps forward and looked in the water. It was very dark in there, and she couldn't see the river floor. What if I fall into a hole? She thought with alarm and got out of the water. Bella looked around and spotted 2 hunters mounted on horses, not far away, and rushed to them. Excuse me, could you carry me to the other side of the river, please? I'm too small and can't swim. Get on the horse with me, I'll get you there, one of them said. Bella came closer to the horse. It was huge, scary, and emanated a stench. Flies flew around its body, biting it, and the horse shook itself and used its tail to blow them away constantly. Bella had never ridden a horse before and didn't know how to get on it. Even though she was scared of the horse, she didn't want to give up. Do you have a ladder? I can't reach up there. The men laughed out loud. A ladder? Ha ha ha. No, we don't have a ladder. They rode away, still laughing. Bella glanced back at the children with sadness on her face. She stepped into the river again, despite its coldness, and looked down the water. She slowly made 1 step at a time, making sure that there was firm ground under her foot. The water was very cold, but she kept moving ahead. The water reached her chest, and she couldn't see the bottom of the river anymore. Bella tried to find some steady ground to make another step, but it disappeared beneath her foot. She stepped left, then right, trying to find a hidden path, but her effort was in vain. The water was too cold, and she felt numb. She walked out of the freezing water, shaking with her entire body. Bella couldn't see the children anymore. They were already over the hill, and she could only hear their voices. After a few minutes, she could no longer hear them. Even if I cross the river, I won't be able to find them, she thought with sadness. Bella went home, feeling very lonely. If I had a big brother, he would take my hand and we would walk together to the forest for mushrooms and berries, just the 2 of us, he and I. In a few days, Bella woke up as usual to go to kindergarten. You are not going to kindergarten today, Sarah said. Why? Look who is outside, Sarah smiled. Bella looked out the window. Daddy. She ran outside screaming, and in a moment, he picked her up with his big strong hands and held her tight as she placed her head on his shoulder and sobbed. Daddy. I miss you so much. I miss you so much. I miss you so much. When her tears dried up and her sobs ceased, Daniel lowered her onto the ground and she noticed a boy standing next to them. Bella, I want you to meet your older brother, Delville. I hope you are going to be a very good friends, Daniel said. Bella smiled with happiness, and reached out to her older sibling. Daniel received a letter from Anita, the mother of his older son, Delville. She wrote that the boy wasn't doing very well in school. She asked Daniel to take the boy and help him out with his studies. This was how 20-year-old Leah became a stepmother to an 8-year-old boy. Delville missed his mother, and was stressed out because of the drastic lifestyle changes, but soon he loved to be a part of his new family. His stepmother, Leah, treated him very well, like her own child. His father was his hero. He was a physics teacher and had tons of different interesting things for physics experiments. He was an incredible storyteller and had a huge book and art collection. Life with his father was exciting, whereas he found life with his mother boring and penniless. Even though he now lived far away from civilization in a harsh environment, he loved his new life and hoped to stay with them forever, so he helped as much as he could. During the week, his parents went to work, and Belville went to school. Though he spent only 3 hours at school, he would rush back home to be with his sister. It was one of his responsibilities, which he performed with pleasure. He came up with different activities that Bella could do during his school hours, making sure that she stayed away from trouble. At weekends, Daniel went hunting, which was a necessary part of survival. Meat was not delivered to the village by helicopters and was always in demand. He bought a double-barreled rifle and a neighbor taught him how to use it, and how to hunt. At first, he was not successful, but little by little, he gained experience and the family started to eat fresh meat. Once, Daniel shot a deer. He was very excited, though he didn't bring it home. Instead, he took the deer to the neighbor, who helped to cut the deer and preserve the meat. Belville and Bella were very proud of their father. The neighbor carefully cut off the deer's head, cleaned and dried it, and in a couple of days, a huge deer's head with incredibly beautiful spreading horns was mounted on the wall of their house as a trophy. Daniel would also bring home a lot of birds. In the summer, he would put on a pair of huge rubber boots that covered his entire legs because he hunted the birds in swamps. Daniel brought home brown birds with white bellies and tails. In the winter, he always wore very warm clothing, and brought home only pure white birds, which had the same name as the others, white-tailed ptarmigan. This is the same bird, it just changes the color depending on the season, Daniel explained to his children. He had a lot of luck with birds, but they were very small, and an adult could eat up to 10 birds in a single meal. Belville and Bella always helped Leah to pluck the birds, and would call the event a plucking party. "Dad, can you take me hunting, please?" Belville asked. "And me, please. Take me hunting. Please?" Bella echoed. It was a serious challenge to take both kids hunting. "It's summer," Daniel said after thinking about it. "We all need rubber boots, otherwise our legs will be wet and cold. I can borrow boots for Belville from our neighbor, who has an appropriate size, but I don't have boots for you, Bella. And for that reason I'll take you hunting in the winter. Deal?" "Deal," she said, "so I have to wait forever then." She was unhappy. "Sis, I will tell you all the stories about our hunting, and when you go hunting, you will be well prepared. You'll know everything there is to know. I promise. Also, do you want to go to a swamp to gather berries?" "Yes." Bella shone with happiness. He took his little sister to a swamp, where all the village children went for berries. He was fast and collected a lot of berries, and the best part was that he gave all the berries to Bella, making her very happy once again. As winter drew nearer, the ground froze and was covered with a new layer of heavenly white snow. Bella put on some warm clothing, and finally went hunting with her father and brother. "Be quiet all the time," Daniel whispered into her ear. Bella nodded, showing she understood, and followed after him. They walked farther from the village, crossing a couple of hills, and then suddenly stopped. Belville came closer to Bella and whispered, "Do you see that bird?" "No," I whispered back. "Over there," he pointed. Bella looked in the direction he pointed toward, but couldn't see anything. "Look at the trace on the snow. On the right. Do you see it?" Belville whispered. "Oh yes. I do." Bella got excited, replying louder than she should. "SHSHSH." But it was too late. The bird heard her, took wing, and flew away. "I told you to be quiet." Daniel was not happy. "Sorry, Dad, it won't happen again." "Okay. The next time, look for a trace. At the place where the trace ends, you can see the bird, if you're careful and attentive enough. It's very hard to see it, because it's white, but you might see its black beak and eyes." They crossed another hill, and stopped again. Delville pointed his hand at a bird. It was almost invisible on the snow, but its beak and eyes were clearly visible, and then she saw its outline. The bird was very small, and cute. It sat there so comfortably and peacefully. It was so beautiful, like a picture from heaven. Delville, it's your turn. Take the rifle. Don't rush. Bella heard something behind her, but didn't pay attention. Suddenly, the gun fired off a round. Bella startled, and felt her stomach fall to her knees. A spot of bright red blood colored the snow. Got it, Dad. Yes, you did. Good job. Let's go. Bella followed them up the hill. They approached the little bird that was motionlessly lying on the snow. Bella removed her hand from the mitten and picked it up. She had plucked these kinds of birds so many times, and they always were cold and hard. But this one was warm and soft. A drop of blood stained her finger, and a drop of tear ran down her face. Don't get upset, Bella. We have to eat something. Delville said. I know, she replied weakly. I think we have to go home. Okay? Bella nodded, and brother and sister returned home. Daniel shot about 25 birds that day, and was very happy. Leah placed all of the birds into the boiling water, to remove the feathers more efficiently, something that she learned from her neighbors. The family cooked them and served them as usual. Bella ate, though she was still in a bad mood. Bella, have you ever rode a horsey? Delville asked, casually. No. Do you want to ride one? Her face melted into a smile. The neighbor had a horse that lived inside his house. It was too cold to keep it outside. When the neighbor fished, he let the horse out and took it to the river to drink water from the ice hole he fished from. It saved him a trip from the house to the river and back to bring water for the horse. Delville loved the horse, and would never miss his chance to take it out of the house in exchange for his help of making an ice hole. This time, Delville took Bella with him to help the neighbor make an ice hole. Then, they came to the neighbor's house. After mounting Bella on the horse, she squeaked with excitement and a little fright. But then, she realized that there was nothing to be afraid of because Delville was standing right next to her. The horse was calm and friendly. Delville led the horse outside and they walked casually toward the river. He didn't take Bella off the horse, and instead let her enjoy the moment. The horse drank some water, then turned around and walked back to the warm house. Bella was happy, forgetting about her recent sadness. Delville loved his little sister, and she loved him back. Bella was glad to have a big brother and was very proud. Delville got to know the local kids, and made a few friends. He always took Bella with him when he played with the other kids. Naturally, some of them ignored Bella, but they all gradually took a liking to her, making her very happy. Delville always kept an eye on Bella, never leaving her alone. She was the most precious human being in his life, as he was in hers.